Red flag laws are terrible ideas. First of all, they're totally unnecessary because existing law already accounts for those that are mentally ill who may be dangerous to themselves or to others. And also, red flag laws, in my view, simply set traps for Second Amendment advocates and for American gun owners. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, and member of the United States Supreme Court Bar. If you support the Second Amendment, please hit the subscribe button to this channel and let people know you like it and share the video. Today, I have an emergency coffee break. I want to tell you why red flag laws are a terrible idea. There's a lot of people talking about how this is a way we can compromise. No way. Let me be clear. Red flag laws are not a compromise. Red flag laws, in my view, are sellouts to the anti-gun community. Now, a lot of people who support gun rights and may be generally sympathetic to the Second Amendment point of view are getting, in my opinion, maybe getting duped by this argument in favor of red flag laws. This is extremely dangerous, and I'm not going to be mad at them because I think a lot of them don't know what they're talking about. They're screwing this up because what sounds good in the real world is totally unnecessary and, in fact, very dangerous to the Second Amendment community. Here's how it works. Red flag laws, as you probably know, allow police officers or other individuals to ask a court to order a temporary removal of firearms from a person who may present a danger to himself or to others. Now, you may be asking yourself this, Mark, what's wrong with that? None of us wants someone who is seriously mentally ill with violent tendencies to have access to guns. Well, yeah, we can all agree on that. But here's the thing. We have already banned in society for literally decades under federal law the right of those that are mentally defective or who've ever been civilly committed, we're going to talk about that in a second, because of mental illness, who have ever displayed dangerous tendencies to themselves or others. These people are already not allowed to have guns under federal law and under many state laws. So what's the point of the red flag laws? And the answer is red flag laws serve as a way to weaponize the mental health system and to create a separate and entirely separate system of justice apart from the justice system we have today. And why is this important to you and your rights? It's because right now, under federal law, which incorporates basically the state laws of the 50 different states, you can only be denied your right to carry guns or your right to have guns, possess guns forever if you have been adjudicated by a court to be mentally defective, which usually means you have a super low IQ, you have Alzheimer's, dementia, or some other thing that makes you not capable of functioning in society. So if you're not capable of functioning in society, then you're not able to have a gun under federal law. Second way is this. If you've ever been committed by a court to through a civil commitment proceeding. Now, civil commitment is something I want to talk to you about for just 30 seconds. Civil commitment is the process whereby someone is deemed mentally ill and a danger to himself or others, and as a consequence has to be civilly committed. But here's where I want you to really understand this. Civil commitment today has two different meanings. First one is a court can civilly commit a person into an institution for 24/7 care. So after a hearing in front of a judge where there's witnesses and evidence, if the judge says, yes, you're mentally ill, and yes, you're a danger to yourself or others, we're going to civilly commit you to an institution, a mental health institution, 24/7 care. You're basically going to live there until you're treated. That's one way it can be done. But there's another way the civil commitment can work. You can be involuntarily required to go to outpatient services, outpatient mental health services. So for example, the court can say, look, I don't think it's appropriate for me to put you in 24/7 mental health institution like the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Okay? Instead, the judge, think it'd be better if you live at home, let's say, but then you have to report every day for mental health counseling with a therapist, Dr. Jones, or what have you, every day or every week, and you're to go there. You're being required to do that. Because a court has ordered you, by order after a hearing, to either go to a mental health facility where you are there 24/7 until you're healthy, mentally healthy again, or you are required to go through outpatient. Either way, under federal law, that's deemed a civil commitment. A civil commitment and means you're no longer allowed to possess guns for the rest of your lives, absent a restoration process. Now, here's why this is so important to understand that these laws not only exist, they've existed for decades. You must understand this point. A key component of these civil commitment processes, such as the Baker Act in Florida, is that the courts not only can take people away from their firearms, because once you're adjudicated mentally incompetent, mentally defective, or you're civilly committed, you can no longer touch guns. It's red flagged effectively, right? You have been deemed a danger to yourself under the law. You're done with it. You can't have guns anymore. It's over. It's over. So why is it that the anti-gunners are arguing for a new separate system of justice designed for gun owners? Because it has to be just for gun owners, because they're just trying to take away guns. People who don't own guns will never be subject to red flag laws because they don't have guns. So they're literally defining a class of targets as gun owners specifically. And why do we need a separate system of justice for gun owners? Why would the anti-gunners want this? Well, here's why. It's because red flag laws have the ability to be abused and exploited by punishing American gun owners without giving them due process. Now, what is due process? Due process at its most basic level means that you have the right to notice and you have the right to opportunity to be heard. Two things, notice and the right to be heard. The right to notice means that before I have a hearing to take away your rights or punish you in some way, I give you notice. I tell you about it. How hard is that? It's fair, right? I can't be doing stuff behind your back and saying, "Hey, we decided that you lose your gun rights or we're putting you in jail." No, we have to give you notice ahead of time that we're planning on doing this. It's like any kind of a hearing. We give you notice. And then there's the opportunity to be heard, which is the second component, opportunity to be heard. Now, what does it mean in the context of being adjudicated mentally incompetent, mentally defective, going to a civil commitment? Well, the opportunity to be heard means not just that you get to talk, it means that you get to confront witnesses that are testifying against you. So if you have a bitter ex-wife or a bitter ex-husband that wants you to lose your guns or go away, well, that can be brought out on cross-examination. Sir, isn't the fact that you used to be married to Bob, and isn't the fact that you don't like Bob anymore, and isn't the fact that Bob, you're mad at Bob because he has a new girlfriend. You can bring all that stuff out at trial, but you can't do it if you don't have notice of the trial, the hearing, and you can't do it if you're not given the opportunity to present evidence and talk to these witnesses and cross-examining these witnesses. Also, the opportunity to be heard in the context of civil commitment processes and other normal mental health litigations doesn't exist as a general matter in red flag laws. Because remember, if you can't afford your own lawyer, and if you can't afford mental health experts, because you're going to need a mental health expert. If somebody says that you're too crazy to have a gun, and they take your guns away, and you try to get them back, you're going to have to present almost certainly an expert who has looked at your mental health history, they've looked at your doctor's records, they've charged you for all that time, by the way, they've interviewed you, they've interviewed your family, they've interviewed your friends. Guess what? That costs money, because not only are you paying a lawyer to represent you, but you also have to pay a mental health expert to review your records, investigate your past, and testify. This is all costing money. And in the context of civil commitment litigations, all of those things, if you can't afford to pay it because you're destitute or whatnot, the state has an obligation to provide you these services, these protections. But in most red flag statutes, these protections are not there. And that is not a bug. That is a feature, in my opinion, because the goal is not, in my view, the goal, although they espouse these views on TV, that red flag laws are about taking dangerous people, preventing dangerous people from having access to guns. Again, totally unnecessary because those already exist. The only difference between the red flag system of justice and the current system of justice is that the current system of justice over the last many decades has built up a series of due process protections to make sure that before you lose your civil liberties, whether those civil liberties consist of your right to freedom, your right to vote, your right to possess a firearm, you have to have you have to know about it, you have to have a full-blown hearing, you have the right to an attorney, a right to experts, and the right to confront your witnesses and to argue your case in front of a judge. They can't do it in the middle of the night behind your back and then show up in the morning with a warrant to take away your guns and you didn't even know what was going on. That is totally unfair. But that's what the anti-gunners want, and that's what they like. Right? Because they don't want you to have the ability to avail yourself of these due process protections that anybody else accused of having a mental problem and incapable function in society would have the benefit of. They want to deny that. And that leads me to my third point. You see, in my view, red flag laws create a system that is easily abused. When you remove due process protections, the chances of people abusing the system, in my opinion, go way up. For starters, anyone with an axe to grind can weaponize the process to punish gun owners. Do you have a vindictive ex-spouse? Do you have a vindictive ex-boyfriend? Maybe a neighbor you don't like or you don't get along with wants to do something bad to you. Or maybe you just know someone who is part of the 20% of American voters who consider owning a gun to be immoral. Although some statutes, I should mention, do say that only law enforcement can file a petition to take away your guns, other statutes, like in New York, let all sorts of other people make kinds of complaints and to red flag you. I mean, the anti-gun activists, as far as they're concerned, is they want anybody in the world to basically be able to red flag you. Now, here's the thing. When someone petitions to take away your guns, this takes, in my view, the entire machinery of government and puts it in motion to go after you and take away your rights. And remember, the initial hearings in red flag laws have often set such a low standard of proof that your guns could be confiscated first before you've even had an opportunity to find out about the hearing or put on a legitimate defense. What I'm saying is not wild speculation. There's actually data to support that initial red flags are often flagging the wrong people. They're flagging innocent people. Legal scholar David Coppell, a great intellectual, testified before the United States Senate that the data that he was able to compile showed that 1/3 of the gun owners that lost their guns through red flag laws turned out that they actually were falsely accused, that they should not have lost their guns. And Attorney Coppell actually thinks this is an underestimate because a lot of people who lost their guns initially just decided not to challenge it later on, or they gave up their guns. Because just do a little bit of math here. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, you own guns that are worth $2,000. Just for the sake of argument, you have guns and ammunition in your closet that have a value of $2,000. Somebody comes in with a red flag law, a red flag petition, and they take your $2,000 in guns away. Well, that's terrible. You want your gun rights back, right? Of course you do. And then you go down the street and you talk to the local lawyer. Even the cheapest lawyers are expensive, I can tell you that. You talk to the local lawyer, and he says, yeah, I can help you get your gun rights back and all that stuff and get your guns back. Here's the retainer. I'm going to need $3,000. And I'm going to need another $2,000 for an expert. That's $5,000. You see what I'm saying? Do the math. So you've just lost $2,000 in firearms. You go down to talk to the lawyer, who also needs a mental health professional, as you know. And next thing you know, you've got to go out of pocket $5,000 or more. So bottom line is, you may find yourself paying more for lawyers and expert witness fees to get your guns back than the value of the guns themselves. That creates a terrible disincentive. But that's exactly what the anti-gunners want to do. They want to discourage you from owning guns at every turn. And red flag laws are not about public safety, in my opinion. They're all about designing a separate system of justice that allows people who don't like guns to harass people that do like guns. The next thing is, keep in mind that judges have every incentive to take guns away when there's not a full-blown trial. Now, keep this in mind, though. If you're a judge and you have a career that you want to advance, every incentive is for you to say that someone is dangerous, because just sort of play it out. If you're just trying to get a job and you're trying to be a civil servant, you want to be a judge, you want to advance, it's much better for you to say, hey, if I red flag someone and I tell them to give up their guns, no big deal. Who cares? Yeah, he loses his rights, but it's not going to come back on me, the judge. In contrast, if I enforce the law and say, hey, no, I'm not going to red flag this person, I'm not going to do it, and then that person, heaven forbid, goes out and commits a bunch of crimes, that could come back on the judge and hurt the judge's career. I hate to say it, but when in doubt, I suspect judges will often order in favor of taking away guns. Many of them don't even like guns, is my guess. And beyond that, of course, they figure, hey, what the heck? I'm much safer off taking away someone's guns, so one person doesn't like me, okay. Or if I don't take away their guns and they do something bad, well, it's going to come back on me, and that's going to hurt my career, and it's going to make me look bad when I'm reported about in the cover of the newspaper. And last but not least, keep in mind that even when you win a red flag case, you still have lost. If someone makes an unfounded accusation against you to kick off the red flag process, you may lose your guns at the beginning, and even if you get them back, by the time you spend all that time and money and stress with experts and everyone else and going through a trial, it is going to be very, very expensive and difficult. And if you do win the case and you do get your guns rights back and you do get your guns back, that's great. But remember, you're really just getting back to where you were before the complaint was. You haven't won anything. You've just been allowed to maintain the status quo and keep your guns. We all know that if people want to commit a crime, whether they're insane or not, the reality is they will find a way to do it with or without red flag laws. At the end of the day, though, red flag laws, mark my words, will be designed to harass gun owners. That's what it's all about. Public safety, yes, they may speak to that. They may even think it's going to do something about public safety, but in my view, you don't need it. The existing system already addresses the concerns by balancing public safety against civil liberty concerns, which is how it's supposed to work. But at the end of the day, I suspect if red flag laws, everywhere they're enacted, you will find instances where these backfire and will be used against gun owners. Because who are these red flags targeting? Only one class of people. Those are American gun owners. That is not a coincidence. That is not a bug. That is a feature of the anti-gun agenda. Okay, I hope you learned something here today at the Four Boxes Diner, and we'll see you again soon at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.